why before he tells him, I will, he shows him how much he loves him. The Bible says in verse 13, he put forth his hand. Now that's a powerful statement, because it was against the law to touch a leper. A leper was supposed to be so highly contagious. What he had was so designating of God's disapproval that nobody was supposed to even touch a leper. Don't you remember probably the most famous Thanksgiving message that's preached concerns the 10 lepers? And it clearly says they were afar off when they said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on us. They were so far off that the Bible said they had to lift up their voice. And when they lifted up their voice, Jesus lifted up his and said, go, show yourselves to the priest. And as they went, they were healed. But here is a leper that Jesus said, I don't want you to doubt my love. He stretched out his hand and touched him in that condition that he was in. I want you to know that others might say you are so messed up that I don't want to get nowhere near you. You're so messed up that I don't want to be seen in your company. But in the midst of whatever you are in, I see Jesus stretching out his hand, touching you from the crown of your head to the sole of your feet, saying, you wonder about my will, I will be made whole. See, you got to know that his word is his will. And you don't have to walk around here wondering, is it God's will for me to be healed? When you read his word, you know his will. And in his will, he says, I am the Lord that healeth thee. When you read in his word, it says God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Ghost and with power. And he went about doing good, healing A-L-L, healing all that were oppressed of the devil. Don't worry about his will. It's his will for you to be healed. It's his will for you to be delivered. It's his will for you to be made whole. Oh, my son of the ocean. Thank you. Thank you. I think you ought to take about a 30-second praise break. Praise him. You can take your seats. Jesus said, I will. Put forth his hand and told him to be made whole. And the Bible said immediately. It didn't take all day. It didn't take all night. But immediately, in the twinkling of an eye, immediately, at the snap of a finger, immediately, leprosy departed and the man was made whole. But listen at what Jesus said. Jesus charged him. Don't tell nobody. What Jesus was trying to prove is that if God works a miracle in you, it don't matter who tells you to shut up. You just can't keep it to yourself. Jesus said, don't tell nobody. But verse 15 says, so much the more there went out a fame concerning Jesus. Jesus said, don't tell it. But every once in a while he'd run into folk. Then it got so everybody he ran into. Are you the one that healed the leper? I want you to know that when he does something for you, when he cuts down, my God, the devil's stronghold, and when that low blood pressure comes up, and when that high blood pressure comes down, and when that kidney that has stopped functioning starts back functioning, and when healing sets in your body, you can't keep it to yourself. I got to tell it. I was dying on my feet. I got to tell it. I was dropping day by day. I got to tell it. You know, they used to sing that if you can't tell it, let me tell it. Anybody in here, you've ever done anything for you? You ought to tell somebody, I don't have time, but I got a story to tell. Sit down one more time. I'm going to close. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Verse 16, or rather verse 17. Says, and it came to pass on a certain day he was teaching, and there were Pharisees and doctors of the law sitting by. When I was a little boy growing up, they said didn't nobody come to these kind of churches except outcasts, the low class. Oh yeah. And you know how it is. Anytime people shun you, then you make up some kind of way to get back at them. So since the educators and members of the intelligentsia stayed away in early days, we took a posture in the church of fighting educated folk. Yeah. But what's happened now? God has proven that 100 years ago, C.H. Mason was right when he was casting out devils, laying hands on the sick, and had folk tarrying for the Holy Ghost until they spoke in other tongues. And now, when we come together, the doctors are here, the lawyers are here, the business folk are here. And when they came, Jesus didn't change. If they had come like Nicodemus by night, they probably wouldn't have seen what they saw. But they waited until a crowd came out of Galilee. They waited till a crowd came out of Judea. They waited till a crowd came out of Jerusalem. And the people were sitting around, and there was an electricity in the air. Faith was coming from over here. Faith was coming from over there. Faith was coming from up there. Faith was coming from over here. And because of the faith, the place was charged with the glory of God. And people were getting healed right and left. Jesus didn't even have to touch them. The power of the Lord was present. And when his power is present, cancers began to dry up. When his power is present, tumors began to melt. When his power is present, minds began to get regulated. Ah! Don't you know he's here? feel him in the atmosphere? Can't you feel him clapping in your hands? Can't you feel it running, dancing in your seat? Can't you feel it? The joy of the Lord. Oh.
Again.